Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining with us today over the weekend for an interesting event on all about Mulesoft automations. So we will be having a live demonstration by Mangesh over Mulesoft Composer as well. As you all know, like myself, Sagar Arora, group leader of Salesforce Community Group Khandwa. Currently, I'm working with DXC Technology as an application architect, and I am like 15x Salesforce certified, working with Salesforce community from past 4 years. That's about myself. And today we have Mangesh Sinoy, who works with Deloitte Digital for close to 2.3 years as a consultant. Thanks Mangesh for giving your time over weekend. Maybe we should like start our session without any further delay. So over to you, Mangesh.
Thank you, Sagar, for giving me the opportunity to present something on Mulesoft. So thank you all for joining in this call, taking out some time on your weekend. It means a lot, and it says a lot about you as well. You are really putting efforts into learning more about Salesforce and also its associated products like Mulesoft. So today we would be going through the Mulesoft automations and what kind of automation products Mulesoft composes, right? So we will be going through, and this will be a beginner level session. It will be not be going in depth. So this is about me. I am Megesh Shenoy. I am a Salesforce developer with 2+ years of experience. I am also a Salesforce and a MuleSoft certified developer, a MuleSoft mentor, and also this year I was awarded by MuleSoft with Up and Comers Award. I was also featured as Muley of the Month last month itself in the month of May, and I am also active in Salesforce Trailblazer Community Forum. Now, before moving on to automation, like what kind of automation products MuleSoft offers, we will first understand why we need to use automation. uh, as you see in the picture, we use automation not for getting up early in the morning and then the robots will come and serve you tea, coffee, make you dress, and all of those kind of stuff. No, but the real use of automation is to improve the efficiency, right? So improve efficiency, improve employee productivity. So what kind of challenges that industry particularly faces today is about saving up their money. It's be- it's because the companies have to keep their margin very low in order to operate, in order to attract customers. So in that very tiny margin, they have to defend, they have to earn profits as well, right? They can't just go on spending money and not be able to earn profits. So because of which the companies try to use automation. The other part is focus on mission critical tasks which cannot be automated, use resources efficiently, accelerating expectations, do more with less. So these are the reasons why we need to use automations, right? So in previous years in 1980s and all, there used not be any computer kind of stuff that much people were using, and there was so many manual activities going on. You take an example of bank. In bank, you go, you will see around 10 to 15 people, clerks right now, right? And an officer. But in previous days, there were like in a hundred of people in just a single branch of bank. So you can see this is the power of automation. Now you can keep it reaches to now. If you think about the bank as well, because of the automation, the banks can now go into rural areas as well. They don't have to focus on too many people, do more with less. So these are the reasons why we need to use automation. Now these are the MuleSoft product offerings. Before that, does anyone know when MuleSoft was founded? So I think many people won't be knowing about this, but MuleSoft was actually founded in 2006. Yes, in 2006. But later in 2020 and 2014, I suppose it got acquired by Salesforce. So the first product offering which MuleSoft proposed was MuleSoft Anypoint Platform. It was I don't remember the date, but this was the very first product which MuleSoft had offered. And then MuleSoft Composer came into the picture in 2021 and MuleSoft RPA in 2022. So these are the three automation products we will be going through on a high level perspective. The Mulesoft Anypoint Platform, Mulesoft Composer, and Mulesoft RPA. Now, going on to our first product, the first offering which Mulesoft had proposed was Mulesoft Anypoint Platform. And if you can see, it is an API based automation. So we will first understand the scenario and then we will jump on to how Anypoint Platform is actually making the integrations very easy. So in the first scenario, Northern Trailer Outfitter sells superior sneakers. If you are on Trailhead and doing so many trail mixes and patches, then you must be knowing about NTO, right? It's the popular brand in our Trailhead. So they use systems such as SAP and Salesforce that helps them function smoothly. However, for more efficient functioning, they have come up with a plan to develop a web app which may provide real-time order status and order history for sales team to engage with customers. Let's assume you have a customer data in SAP and Salesforce, inventory data in SAP and order data and e-commerce system. In today's world, this is a very generic system how companies operate. They would be having multiple systems containing multiple data, right? In other terms, we call it data silos, where data is not present in one system, it is distributed across multiple systems. So in this scenario, we have the customer data in SAP and other custom part of customer data in Salesforce. As well, SAP contains the inventory data, and there is another e-commerce system. Okay, you can take example of Magento. They contain like order data and all kind of stuff, right? So my developers have to build this API application. Now they built this API and we call it monolithic application. Why monolithic? Because the entire integration is just a one application. In just one application, I'll build the entire integration. There are APIs exposed for SAP, Salesforce, and also e-commerce system. I will simply use those API over here and aggregate the data. Then my developers, what they will do, then they will again aggregate the data on order status, order history, and make that API exposed as a web API over here. So this is the entire data processing happening over here, right? Again, this is the problem, challenging. My developers were very efficient, they were very fast. They built out this monolithic application and they proposed this to client. Now we all know the clients are not happy with only one kind of stuff, right? Now they propose, I want a change request. I want some more functionalities into it. So now, the stakeholders at Northern Trailer Outfitters are now demanding a mobile application. Why? Wait, the API that was created earlier is not suitable to be used for mobile application, right? So if you think web APIs, the APIs which are built for web can't be used over here. Why? Because if we try to use, sometimes you may face a lag, and sometimes you won't be having a smooth experience, right? So many times, these companies make a separate API available. You take an example of LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a separate interface for their mobile application and also separate interface for the web application. So when you log in into LinkedIn, you can see the URL. It's completely different, right? You can see m.linkedin.com. The same thing is over here. Now I have to build a mobile application, a API which is suitable for mobile application, right? So the developers are now working to create a separate API only to be used by mobile application. But what's the challenge? So in the previous thing, I had built an entire monolithic application, right? An entire API. Whereas all the data would be, I would first fetch all the data and then aggregate the data, transform the data, and make it available to my web API, web app, right? So this is an entire monolithic application. One major thing for monolithic application is we can't reuse anything of it. We can't reuse. So my developers are have now begin again to build this application, like fetching, writing code to fetch API, to fetch data from SAP, Salesforce, and e-commerce system. Fetch the data, aggregate the customer data, then do the transformations over here for order status, order history, make some changes and make it available as mobile API over here, right? But are the client patient? Because you already proposed them, we have already built this application, and in no time would build this mobile application API as well, right? An API which is suitable to be used by mobile application. So the client is like again and again asking the same question. This is not only the problem. What if the people who actually were present in developing this first mobile application left the organization due to some other external factors, right? How can now my organization has to employ some new set of people, and there are also no standard documentation. People have not documented this very well, right? So they have to build this entire application themselves. Now you can understand the challenge. No documentation, build the entire interface themselves, no proper knowledge. Then how the client would be happy, and thus the client would obviously leave out the partner organization, and then they would find some another vendor, right? But here comes Max the Mule. So Max the Mule is actually the mascot for Mulesoft. So he comes in and he proposes a solution which is called as API-led connectivity. Now, API-led connectivity is one of the things which you'll be hearing a lot in this Mulesoft ecosystem. So what do we do in this API-led connectivity is, instead of building a monolithic API application, we would segregate it into some smaller points. We distribute it accordingly. System APIs, process APIs, and experience APIs. Now you can see we build out three different APIs and not just one API for the web or for the mobile. So what do we do in the system API? We actually unlock the data. Unlock the data means my customer data exists in SAP over here. My customer data exists in Salesforce, e-commerce system, UPS, or tool, wherever it is. I can create a system API specifically, unlock the data. Now you won't be doing any processing over here, no filtering, nothing. You will first unlock the data, right? You will first get the customer raw data, the raw data of the customer. Then what do we do in this process APIs? We transform the data, we make the filtering happening over here, transform the data accordingly how we want, right, for our web application or for the mobile application. So we create this process APIs, and in the process API we transform the data accordingly how we want. Now in the process API we can see I've created a separate API for the shipment status, for order status, customer status, and in this process API I can also reuse these process APIs internally as well. I can use order history in this customer data, then order status over here. We can reuse all of this. Now, what do we do in the experience APIs? We basically aggregate the data over here. Transformations would happen in the process APIs layer, and the aggregation would happen in the experience APIs layer. Now, once we have aggregated the data, the external developers who want to consume these APIs can easily consume them without having to think about other things, right? So again, repeating, in system APIs, I will unlock the raw data. In process APIs, I will filter the data, transform the data, do various processing, and only show up the valid data. Then in my experience API, I would simply aggregate the data, okay, that was provided by these process APIs, and make it available to the external developers over here, right? So this is the API-led connectivity, and it's one of the terms which you would not be bored or you will be hearing a lot in this Mulesoft ecosystem. Now, this API-led connectivity is an approach. Over here, we can see we not the way Mulesoft Anypoint platform works is we should not actually directly go and develop the API. We design the API, then we develop it, and then we manage it, right? So in the design phase, rather than implementing the API and then taking the feedbacks, what I propose or what Mulesoft proposes, write down a RAML code. This RAML code basically generates a API, a mock interface, which you can provide it to the customer, get some data, again reprocess the RAML code. Now RAML is RESTful API modeling language. Also, you can write open API specifications. Now, these are the ways we design the API. We let the customers know how what APIs, like what are the functionalities of this API, what would be the request would be sending, what are the responses, what kind of method it supports, like post, get, and all of those stuff, right? What kind of header is required, what kind of query parameter is required. We first design it. We let the customers know you want the API accordingly. Let us know you want some feedback. Give us the feedback. We will make the changes again. Now, once we know how our API would be, what kind of data it requires, what kind of data it would send it to the customer, right? So we then build out the API in this layer over here. In the build phase, we will build out the APIs. Then we will test the APIs locally using Anypoint Studio. Over here in the design phase, we will first design the API in Anypoint Platform, which is a web interface, which has a web interface, right? Then we can import the RAML file, which contains my API specifications in shorter terms, how my API would behave, what kind of parameters it requires, and so on. So we then can import it into my Anypoint Studio, then have it actual implementation ready in it. Now, once I have done and tested it, I can deploy it to my customer hosted Mule runtime, where I can deploy this Mule application. Otherwise, MuleSoft has its own offering called CloudHub. Now, CloudHub also has two flavors: CloudHub Original 1.0 and 2.0. Now you can deploy it accordingly how you want. Now these APIs, when deployed, you can manage these APIs using API Manager, where you can set some policies such as JWT over 2.0. You can set these policies using clicks. You don't have to write any code for this, right? It's already is an pre-built implementation. You can just add on in your on top of your API. You can make proxies. What are proxies? So instead of making my actual implementation API exposed, I would rather have an API proxy. So API proxy would internally call my actual implementation API, and then in a way it secures my API so that no other person or a hacker can access and can make some changes and so we can also create API proxies. We can manage. We can also there is a thing called Anypoint Analytics. So whenever we make a request to that API, internally MuleSoft logs those requests. They can also show you the network, like how much time it is taking to send you request and response. Then from where the API, from where the request was made. Was it made from Sri Lanka, or was it made from India or Europe or USA? So it also logs of these kind of parameters as well. Now there is also an API monitoring, API visualizer, which provides you a real-time view of your the API, the application, the Mule application which you have built. So ready for next challenge. So in the previous view, what we had gone through was Anypoint Platform, which is one of the MuleSoft product offering. Currently, we will go to we will go through another scenario, which is Andrew, who is working as a Salesforce admin at NTO, is finding it difficult to perform operations such as inserting or updating the product record billing in the globe product billing legacy system, having no APIs exposed. Andrew has approached Max to help him automate this particular process, as when an opportunity is closed won, the related product billing details should also be reflected in the legacy system. Now, you all people are working with Salesforce, right? Salesforce has APIs exposed, but previously, in 1980s and before, there were softwares present. Many companies started to use those software, but the one thing is the softwares are local. They don't have an APIs exposed, right? And this is where Salesforce was introduced. If you know, Salesforce first mascot was right? So it was on the web. The Salesforce solution was on the web. You don't had to download anything. But many companies still now use legacy systems, right? Because they have a huge dependency in 90 from they are using the system from 1980s. It's not easy to migrate from a legacy system to a new system, right? So the current NTO org is facing this scenario as well. So how can Max help Andrew to increase his productivity as well as save NTO some money to concentrate on other to let Andrew concentrate on other tasks, right, and improve his productivity. Here comes another product of Mulesoft, which is Mulesoft RPA. Now, not like Anypoint Platform. Anypoint Platform is an API based automation, but Mulesoft RPA is a UI based automation. If most of the people are hearing the term RPA for the first time, right? Like, what RPA? So RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. The RPA bots can perform all the activities that a human can perform. Now, many people are thinking that RPA can take over that job. No. If you remember, in the previous years when computer was introduced, many people were fearing that the computers can take over their job and then the economy would be destroyed or not. But what it do? We humans adopted the computer in such a way that it helped us improve the productivity, increase the technology outreach, make people more productive and smart as well, right? We can know the entire information. Why? Because from a simple invention called computer. Now, as times are become challenging, businesses want to automate processes and boost employee productivity as much as they can. If you remember, I had mentioned that these companies operate in a very thin margin in the current scenario. Why? Because there are so many competitors available. If you offer a product for 10 rupees, I would offer another product for the same product for 8 rupees, right? So in that 8 rupees, I have to manage the company operations, give salaries to my employees, and but I have to also maintain a profit for my company to operate, right? Now because of which companies are moving on to automation. Now having inefficient processes cost companies a lot of money. The range lies between lakhs to crores, and it's not a single integer, but it can become more and more if companies don't automate their solutions currently. Now automate tedious and error prone tasks. As you know, Andrew said that he had to also update the information in the legacy system, right? So that is a tedious task because he has to go open it, then open the legacy application, type in everything one by one. Then sometimes if Andrew is dozing or having a chit chat with his colleague and he enters wrong information, because of his chit chat the company is like losing so much of money, right? Because customer data is a real thing. It's like a oil, it's a new oil of the current generation, right? So the sigma rule is, when using Mulesoft RPA, you cannot automate all the processes, right? So you can automate the processes, but end of the day, you have to also see what is the return on investment for that process getting automated. Now these are the some of the scenarios where we can use Mulesoft RPA or RPA as well. So like extract data from PDF, CSV, and other file formats and send this data to other systems. Now RPA has a particular feature called OCR, optical character recognition. Now it can recognize whatever data is written in your PDF files, and it can send the data, so you don't have to as a manual activity, you don't have to read the entire thing, then make some changes like make decisions. No, but RPA is there. RPA can read the data that is present in the PDF file or CSV or handwritten text and then process the data accordingly. Now automate payroll data entry and validate the information across multiple systems. Automate the processing of customer refund requests to make them quicker and provide the best experience for customers. Update customer information automatically across different systems that do not have an API and are accessible only through the UI. Remember, if an application has API exposed, it is recommended to use the API and not the UI for automation. Why? API automation are very quicker when we compare it to the UI based automation. Now, this is the life cycle of Mulesoft RPA.
If you want to learn about Mulesoft RPA and Mulesoft Composer with a live demo, then please do watch the next video where I will be discussing about RPA, Composer, and also going through some live demo about a Mulesoft Composer. And at the end, I would be answering few questions asked by some of the trailblazers about Mulesoft RPA, Composer. Thank you for watching and please stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.